Hello, and welcome to the Knitting Traditions Podcast. My name is Inga, and this is my little corner on the internet where I talk about my knitting. I'm still here. I'm still pregnant. We made it to another episode. I have been making a lot of little things in the past week, and I wanted to share with you guys. Please excuse my just woke up bed hair and look. I am wearing a self-drafted sweater that I made 2 years ago. It's quite an oversized raglan that I used holst supersoft, held double for, on I think either 3 or 3.5 millimeter needles, and I used some cabled motifs. Several are inspired by the book, is it Japanese Stitch Bible? I have one of those. I think there are 2 of them. And otherwise, I just winged it. It was a labor of love, but it is beautiful. And I think it's one of the pieces that I am the most proud of. I do think it could do with another wash. I think it still might have a little bit of spinning fiber in it. It feels a little bit stiff still. But I don't find it itchy. This one lives in my boyfriend's cabinet because it fits him better than me because it is so oversized. It really is a men's sized sweater. I do think I put it on the right way. It feels like it. But yeah, the sleeves are super long, so I have them rolled up. He's quite a lot taller than me, so it fits him really well, but I think he also rolls the sleeves up a little bit. It has a long ribbing on the bottom that has a little bit of flaring tendencies. I think the cabled motifs shrinks it in more than the 1x1 rib does. And the color is cinnamon, if I didn't say. But yeah, it fits really well now, and it's nice and warm, even though it's not super thick. And I have some finished objects to show you today, so I think we can move into those. One of the finished objects I hadn't even cast on the last time I podcasted for you. I have just been nesting up a little bit, getting Nellie's room ready, and she has this like a square play bed thing that you can like adjust for 2 floors so the kids don't crawl out of it. And so we have that in like the nursery. And I got it for free from a neighbor, and it came with like a baby mobile that goes around if you wind it up, and it has a lullaby, and it had some little colorful toys on it, but I didn't really, kids do love colorful toys, but the first months they don't really see vibrant colors, they see contrasts. So I wanted to create something for the mobile for like the first couple of months, and then I'll change it to the more colorful ones later. I used a pattern from Aftenstrikk, and I think it's called Lillebrors. It comes in English as well. There were a little like tiny mistakes in the pattern. Like one of the headings for like the wings of this has been not, the heading is not translated, so it's the Norwegian word for it, but nothing that will prevent you from being able to make this. The pattern has a little bee and several flowers. Let's see if we can focus on these. Now, they are supposed to be made with silk mohair, but I used scraps from my stash. So this is Viking Garn Highland Eco Wool. This is hillesvåg hillesvåg vidde or varde. It's the worsted weight. And this is peacefleace, and the yellow in the center is also peacefleace for all the flowers. I think I followed the pattern with the 3mm needle, and I followed it as I was supposed to for the bee and these two flowers. But the peacefleace was a thicker yarn, so it was a little bit painful to knit on, such a very tight gauge. I modified this one a little bit, so I did 2 stitches less for the cast on the leaves, and then I increased until I had, well, I skipped the last increase row, and that made it exactly the same size as the other flowers. And then I just used the ends from weaving the petals together to create the little strands to hang it up. And once this is not keeping her attention, I will take them off, and they could either be little toys, so little flowers to play with. They are very sturdy and big, so it's not something she can choke on. The bee I think I'll be a little bit more careful with, also because it has the fluffy fibers. And another option, except for toys, if you want to make this but you don't have any kids you want to make it for, is they would make really nice ornaments to hang on the tree for next Christmas. Or I was also thinking I could attach them to little hair clasps, and they could be like little hair pieces. Like, how cute would that be? I think that would be a lot of fun. So I enjoyed making these so much. I think I made them within 2 days, that I wanted to make more with other scraps from my stash. So I started. I had some colors left over from when I knit the chestnut cardigan by Marie Wallen, and I wanted to use them up. So these colors are a little bit more fresh. Cover my face so you can see. And I managed to get 3 petals out of like a tiny little nugget of yarn that I had. So like maybe half of this little end. I had half that quantity. Come on, focus. And I managed to get 3 petals out of that. So I figured, you know, it's a scrappy project. All the petals don't have to be the same. And this is a lot thinner yarn, so I found that 3 petals kind of makes up for half a flower. Instead of a flower being made up of 5, this size would be made up of 6. So I am making 3 more petals in a lighter color, and I think they will work really well together. And the idea is that I'm gonna do like alternate colors for the petals like this. And I don't know where this flower is gonna go because the baby mobile is done. I might make this into like that little hair clasp idea, either for myself or for her when she has enough hair for that. Or I could attach it to her car seat or pram or whatever for like a little thing to play with. Which, you know, it's not going to be in the first months, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. And I also have some very nice plant fiber scraps in brighter colors that I think would also be nice to play around with. I realized after just doing the wings on the bees that I'm not going to be making petals in mohair. It was just very fiddly. It was better to knit with the thicker yarn on a very tight gauge for me personally. I think for the 3mm needles, what would be most comfortable to knit with would probably be a sport to light DK. So maybe I will make more in that kind of yarn weight, or you know, you can always alter the needle size to change the size and comfort levels of the petals. But yeah, that was the Lillebrors Euro English version from Aftenstrikk. And while we are on finished objects, because I did start another pattern from her, I have been kind of putting off making knitted toys because I thought it would be very fiddly, but it wasn't really. So after doing that, I started another pattern, but I will talk about that in the whip section. First, I have another finished object, which I also don't think I had cast on for the previous episode. This is the Lilly kjole, aka Lilly's dress, from knitsbyjacobsen. It's from her book. She has several patterns in the Lilly series. This is the dress version. You start with knitting the band that has sort of like a buttonhole in the back, and then you knit the skirt with some German short rows to make it longer in the back, and then there's an option of either sewing the double-edged bottom on or knitting it on. I opted for casting off and then whip stitching it onto itself, just because I found it flared up less. When I tried to knit it on, it had a tendency to roll up, so this worked better for me. And I started, the yarn that I used is not the intended yarn, so I used the baby suri alpaca from garnspesialisten, which was gifted to me. They sell dead stock yarn from the Italian fashion industry, and they sell it to knitters at a decent price. This entire dress, I used 233 grams of yarn. It came in a hank that was supposed to be 250 grams, but I waited and it was 243. And I was worried I was going to run out of yarn, but I had 10 grams left after finishing these frills. And I cast on for this 2-year-old size. And I just used this as a gauge swatch, and I saw that I was off. So with my gauge on the smaller needle, instead of 2-year-old, I was getting the 4-year-old measurements. So I just continued knitting with the smallest needle. So this is supposed to be like tighter gauge than here, but they are the same. That's whatever. Don't need it to be tight around the tummy on a child. This front section and the straps in the back is what's going to hold it up anyways. And then I just did the length measurements of the 4-year-old size, so it would be proportional. So that worked out well, but I did think I was going to run out of yarn because the yardage requirements of the 2-year-old size in that other yarn was 500 meters around, and I had 500 meters about, but I managed to get the 4-year-old measurements out of it. So really happy I didn't have to get another skein just to finish like 1 or 2 rows. And I did one modification. These straps were supposed to be knit flat, and then afterwards you were supposed to use mattress stitches to seam them together. And I just used magic loop and knit them in the round all the way up. So all I had to really do afterwards was Kitchener stitch together these 2 ends. So that's a little tip if you want to make it. I had a look on her website and I couldn't find this pattern among the English ones, but she does have English patterns as well if you like this aesthetic. I found this a lot more pleasurable to knit than I thought I would. I thought it would be quite cumbersome and that I would get bored and annoyed with all the steps, but it really flowed off the needles quite pleasantly. Like, there was no technique that was scary or difficult. Now I have been knitting for several years, but I would say that it's not a super difficult pattern. I think an adventurous beginner could do it. You would need to know how to do increases and how to pick up stitches and that kind of thing. Bind off, cast on. Otherwise, it's just knitting. There is only purl stitches for the front panel. And I think it is very cute. This is the color Salvie, by the way. And you pull the straps through the hole in the back and you tie a bow. So I have the stitch count of the 2-year-old, but the gauge was way off, so width-wise it's like the 4-year-old size, and that's why I also did the length of the skirt, top, and straps of the 4-year-old size. So this can't be used anytime soon, but I do think because it has adjustable straps in the back, it just depends how tight you do it. You could start at this point and then as the child grows, just make the bow smaller and smaller so that it kind of gets longer and longer. And I kind of want to have one for myself. I think it could be quite easy to make this for an adult. If you've made it for the child, you can play around with the yarn and gauge and then do an adult size version. And I might just do that one day if I find the time and motivation. I actually cast on for another one for her that I'm hoping will be a smaller size. In a color that I really would like to have myself. I think it's going to be so cute with like a white puffy shirt underneath. And I want that. I want a cute like little apron dress. And I think it's also a great, this kind of garment is great if you are not sure if the child is going to be sensitive to certain fibers, because you would wear this on top of stockings and a long sleeved shirt, so it's not going to be next to skin at all. And I think it could also be cute to add like a pocket here. There's supposed to be embroidery here, but I opted to not do that. I thought it was cute enough without it. So yeah, that's the Lilly dress. I saw on Ravelry that there is a similar styled apron dress. If you search for apron dress, that one is not a circular skirt. It is more like a front panel and a back panel, but it has a very similar look with like the frills and stuff, if you're looking for an English pattern. Yes. Then I think I don't have any more finished objects that I've made, so I can just show you the next one that I have cast on. So this yarn is Holst Supersoft in the color Scots Pine, which is one of their more beautiful browns, if I may say so myself. And so it's the same yarn as this, just a different colorway. And I am knitting the 2-year-old size again, with the stitch count at least, on the same needles. So I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles. And I was thinking that because this yarn is a lot thinner than the baby suri alpaca, that this should be closer to the right gauge. And the gauge should be 22 stitches, I think. I washed it, I soaked it in very warm water because it has a lot of spinning oil. And then I soaked it again in warm water with wool soap. I might soak it again with, is it that kind of green soap that you wash your floors with? detergent, some sort of detergent. People say that is better. I have not tried it myself, but I just wanted to see sort of what my gauge was working up to be. And when it was wet, it looked like I had gotten the exact same as this one, and I was a little bit like, should I make her 2 dresses in the same size, or should I redo this on like a 3mm needle? Should I do 3mm needle for the 1-year-old size and then hope for the right gauge? But now that it has dried, I do think that there is a size difference, as you can see. So I'm gonna measure my gauge and see if this gauge is adequate for the 2-year-old size, or maybe it's more similar to the 3-year-old size, then that could be okay too. Then I have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old size. And this is this is also the color that I kind of want to use to make a dress for me. But I do not think it's going to use a lot of fiber to make the child size, because alpaca is a heavier fiber and it was a thicker yarn, and it used almost 250 grams, right? I think that with the thinner yarn, wool, which is very lightweight and a smaller size, hopefully, it's not going to use much at all. And this is a 500-gram cone. So maybe if I make this and I still want to make one for myself, I could make a matching one. And if I run out of yarn, I could always order more from Holst, because this is a colorway that I think they keep making it. It's not something that runs out. So I could make the skirt in this and then get another cone to do the top part if I run out. But it might also be enough to do what I needed to do, because I found that 500 grams of Holst Supersoft usually is enough for 2 sweater garments for me. I held the yarn double for this one. It's oversized, long, cabled, and I didn't run out of yarn on the comb. So it goes quite a long way. And I have also been knitting on something else that is brown. I think brown is my happy place right now. It's a color that soothes me and comforts me and makes me happy. So yeah, brown it is. I have been working on the Pleated Whiskey cardigan by Thea Coleman, I think. I will check. I got another one of these bullet journal for knitters 2024. So this is by Middelstrik. She is Norwegian. She creates these in English and Norwegian, and she does like a pre-order during the fall usually. So I'm really happy with them. It's my 2nd year, and I'm going to be keeping my eye out on her Instagram for next year as well, probably, unless I figure out a way to create a stamp that has like the project, pattern, yarn, color, size, gauge, needle, all those things that I can like stamp into a blank bullet journal. Because if I had that, I'd be set for life. If you know a company where you can like make your own big stamps, let me know. That would be great. But yes, I digress. In here, I keep notes on all of the projects that I'm doing, and I also comment below if I do any modifications so that I can look back later. And the Pleated Whiskey is by Baby Cocktails. I'm using the McCausland 3-ply yarn that I got from my friend Sue in Canada. And I'm making the size 2 instead of the size 4 because of my gauge being off. So I often do that. I will see what my gauge is and then compare it to the supposed gauge and figure out how many stitches in my gauge would I need to get that bust circumference that I want. and then I'll go for the size closest to that. So I'm knitting the size 2, but the length measurements of the size 4. See a pattern here? And I started this around New Year's, and I really want to have this finished because this is going to be a cardigan that will get a lot of use because it is such a workhouse yarn. It's quite stiff, and that's what I want. I don't want something that I'm going to be afraid of. This can be thrown on, worn while gardening, for all kinds of purposes, and it's going to have pockets. The pockets are done. I'm just working on the body now, and I'm still on that 3rd ball of yarn, and I have 10. And once I finish the 3rd, I'm going to do the sleeves, and then I'm going to finish the body measurements of the original length, which is like to the hips, and then see how much yarn I have left, if I feel comfortable doing the long cardigan version, which would be nice. Or if I like how the length hits, I'm gonna just finish the cardigan. But it's currently at a very comfortable stage where the pattern is established and I don't need to look at the charts because I can read my knitting. So I can just look at the chart here, because I have this turn here has been done here. So I can just look at my knitting to see which way the cables will lean and how they will change. And these stay the same through the whole thing. The honeycomb is the same through the whole thing. So really the hard cable is really is the ones that are on the front panels, and they are not the same. One is left leaning, one is right leaning. But yeah. So I am at a stage now where the pattern is very comfortable to knit on, and I have put it aside because I want to have it when I come home from the hospital. If I find the knitting time and I want to knit on this, that it's going to be somewhat mindless. As mindless as a all over cabled cardigan can get. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't want to end up going to the hospital while this is at some sort of point where I'm not sure what to do, or have to use a lot of brain capacity to do it, if that makes sense. So it's resting now until I get back home. There really isn't much left of the 3rd ball either, so yeah. I want to come home and do those rows with the last yarn before doing the sleeves, so I have the cables fresh in mind. That's my thought process, at least. And then I have bending over. After doing the Lillebrors Uro, I thought that, oh wow, this was not as hard to do as I thought it would. I felt like whenever I've done the crocheted animals, and I can show you because I hung up a little basket. A gift from my brother this Christmas was a wall basket, and inside it I have all these cute little toys. So I have Simon the sheep and this cocker spaniel. I don't remember the name, but I had a cocker spaniel before, so I made this one. Very special to me, as well as Simon the sheep, because every crafter has to love sheeps, right? And I do think the elephant is called Elizabeth. And then this was a kit, I think. And I put a little rattle thing in it. And then this bear and this crocheted cocker spaniel to match the dog that I had, Pia, were made by my friend. So they have a very special place. And they're hanging above her little crib, looking all cute and ready for a time when she will like to play with stuffy toys. Preparing. I think any crafter could have this on their wall though, because it is very cute and aesthetically nice looking, I think. So I I digress so much. I wanted to make another toy, and I wanted to make a knit toy. And I've had several queued up in my library, but I figured that since I found those flowers and bees so pleasurable to knit, that I would make this little thing, which is also a pattern from Aftenstrikk. And I've had this pattern for a long time as well. I don't know why I thought it would be difficult to knit, but this really wasn't that bad. This is the swan duckling, or svaneungen, svaneungen in Norwegian. This is, I knit from the English pattern, and it is not, I would say it's not a difficult pattern to knit. If you know how to knit and you know how to do left leaning and right leaning increases, and then knit two togethers and slip knits, pick up stitches, you can do this. And this did not take long to make at all. It's on 4mm needles. I finished the head and the body. I am currently making the little wings, and then it's going to get a beak, and I think it's also going to get some embroidered eyes. And I am using stash yarn for this, both scraps and stash. This yarn, I need my cheat sheet. This is a scrap I used to make the festival sweater for Nelly and for a colleague who had a baby shower last spring. This is the Rosarius 4 Valencia in the white color. It is a beautifully soft and silky, summer yarn, very cool feeling to the touch. And I've paired it with knitshopitaly's Fluffy Merino Extra Fine, which was gifted to me. And it's the last yarn that I was gifted from them. They sent 3 cones, and I have not knit with this yet because I wasn't sure how it was going to act up, because it has some elastane, so it is very stretchy and bouncy, beautifully soft. And I thought that pairing these two together, because this has no stretch and this has stretch, this is cool and silky, this is warm and fluffy, I thought they would make a great match. And I do think that they have worked really well together. It has a beautifully light marled look to the little duckling, and very pleasurable knit. I've just put some regular stuffing in, but you could also stuff it with scrap yarns. But now, since I've been making those little flowers as well, I found a purpose for most of my scraps. So I had some stuffing and I decided to put stuffing in it instead of breaking up like small balls of yarn that I could still use for another project. So yeah, very cute, and I think I could finish this today if I don't decide to knit on the dress. Decisions. And one last, or two last, I don't think I've made a lot of progress, if any, since last time on this. Because again, it's one of those projects that I think it's going to be nice to have when I come home from the hospital. This is the number 59 scarf from Biches, and they sent me this yarn during Advent to knit. And if any, I put in a few rows of knitting since last time. It's a beautiful scarf and very soft and comfortable in their Lillebrors silk and mohair yarn. And I don't have to look too much on the pattern to finish this scarf. It's just these sections right here that is, I just need to remind myself how to do it each time, but it's not difficult. It's slip stitches and knitting, so not bad at all. And yeah, I just wanted to have this when I come home from the hospital, so I have kind of put it aside for now. And yeah, it's just waiting for me to get home and have something simple to knit on. So that is one resting with for now. Not long now. And I have also been knitting a little bit on my Stella quilt cushions. I finished 2, and I think last time I had done the first row of the pillow. These are the other 2 yarns that I was gifted from knitshopitaly. They're mohair boucle and they're synthetic artistic boucle. And since last time I have made 2 more squares. And yeah, I made 2 more squares. I am in no rush to finish this. I'm just enjoying the progress, and I find it's a very nice knit to have with me in the car for longer car rides now. We haven't gone on any long car rides in the past 2 weeks because I want to be closer to the hospital. So this might just wait until after the baby comes, and maybe it'll be more of a couch knitting project. That is the word. A couch project for the winter and spring ahead. Once I have 4, I do think that'll be enough to make like a baby blanket by combining them, or I might just have 4 new pillows for the couch on the attic, where I will probably spend a lot of time with Nelly in the upcoming time. So we'll see. But I'm enjoying it a lot, and it's just a nice long-term whip to have. And I'll be doing a test knit for Laura Penrose soon as well. So it's all fun, and I'm excited to cast that on as well in other colors, and yeah, good times. Last thing I have to show you is an acquisition or a gift from another podcaster friend of mine, Sarah from Day to Day Knits. She and I did a kind of advent swap 2 years ago now, I think. 2 years ago. And in there she had sent me some Wool of the Andes roving in a very similar color to this that I am currently spinning up. I'm over halfway now. My hair is not. I'm over halfway, and she sent me 2 more of these unspun roving hanks in very beautiful Christmassy colors. I do think that this green in particular would work really well in a project together with the more rust colored one, if I were to spin it all up and to knit with it in some sort of color work motif. And I'm also hoping that my spinning gets better so that I can spin this up into a thin enough yarn that it will be enough to create something on its own in this beautiful red wine looking color. And it's 100% Peruvian Highland wool. This color, does it say? I don't think it says. There's a lot on it, but not a colorway. So yes. And that wasn't the main part. She had knit something for Nelly, and it's this vest, which I think is probably gonna fit a little, depends how big she is, but maybe when she's 2, we'll see. I'll try it on when I think it's when she's grown a bit. And Sarah said that this is like a Harry Potter inspired vest with N for Nelly, and I did not make that connection at first. I saw this and I was getting like cheerleader, Taylor Swift even. I'm not a Swiftie. I honestly don't listen to a lot of music, which is weird, but that's what the vibe was giving me. But now that she said it's Harry Potter, I'm like, oh yeah. I really want a Ron Weasley sweater myself in like a tweedy burgundy. So I might just have to make myself a tweedy Harry Potter sweater to match Nelly at some point. I blocked this because Sarah said she hadn't blocked it. She was afraid of the red bleeding a little bit, and I have never experienced yarns like the dyes bleeding myself, but it did happen a little bit, just like a tiny little bit around the letter, but nothing that is major or visible unless you're like close up and looking at it. So I don't mind, and Nelly's not gonna mind, and you know, I'm not gonna be so precious about knitting that I'm afraid of washing it, because kids' clothes will need to be washed even though it's wool. And it's just so cute. So thank you, Sarah. This will get a lot of use when she just gets a little bit bigger. And yeah, I think that is all that I have been working on since last time. I have packed the Amy slipover and yarn for the half and half triangles in my hospital bag, and then I have some whips that will wait for me when I get home. And I haven't been wanting to cast on a garment in the past week just because I didn't want to barely cast something on and then a life-changing event and then no idea when I get back to it. So instead I've been making little things and things that I don't think I will forget how to do. So following patterns and more simple things. And I think that's a good way to go for me right now. So I hope that you are well, and I hope that you're making all the things that make you happy, and that you've had a good start to the year, and you know, taking care of yourself and doing the things that you need to do to be in a good place. It's a busy world out there, so, and nobody's going to look after us if we don't look after ourselves. So I hope that you find the time to take care of yourself and craft all the things if that makes you happy, and then don't craft all the things if that doesn't make you happy. Find a good balance, and I hope to talk to you soon. Bye.